What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. My name is Drew with theloamwolf.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Specialized Turbo Levo SL. So we received our Turbo Levo SL several weeks ago, have been spending a lot of time on it here on our local trails and really getting to know what the bike does, where it excels, who the intended user is, and really comparing it to the extensive amount of time that we've spent on the regular Turbo Levo. It retails for $9,025. Specialized has quite a few offerings available. Obviously the highly talked about Founders Edition, which is up at $16,500, and the entry-level aluminum version is the comp alloy at $6,525. So still a bit higher than some of the other brands for an entry-level bike, but you're getting something that's pretty unique out of the SL, and that is an extremely light, playful, and lively e-bike. We've been very pleased with the performance in terms of handling, the liveliness, snappy feel of the bike. I'd say a lot of the great time on the trail isn't just because of the weight. A lot of it has to do with the geometry on this bike. It's extremely capable and well-rounded for a 150mm travel bike, front and rear. The Levo SL has a 66-degree head tube angle and a 74.6-degree seat tube angle. That gives the bike a 455mm reach and a 781mm front center. And the size large has a 633mm stack height. One of the highly contested topics on the bike and the spec is the Fox 34 fork. A lot of people were wishing for a 36. It was obviously part of the reason that this bike is so light. However, it keeps the bike's weight down. It's probably adequate for a majority of riders, and it does come with a 51mm offset. The bike has 437mm chainstays, which are 14mm shorter than the chainstays on the regular Turbo Levo. That's something that we definitely noticed on the trail. We appreciated in terms of the snappiness, handling, getting in and out of tight corners. We've been saying a lot that we wish e-bikes were coming with shorter and shorter crank arms just because of the amount of times we're pedaling through rocky and really chunky terrain at higher speeds than we would be on a traditional bike. So going back to a 170mm crank arm, we were really expecting a lot more impacts and pedal strikes, especially here at one of our main test areas that has a lot of deep ruts and tall volcanic rock in some of the techie sections. And surprisingly, the bike did pretty well. I think the bottom bracket height had a lot to do with that. Tough to say if we would have rather had a 165mm crank on there. I think some of us probably would have, and if you live in a really rocky or rutted out area, that might be something to consider. Oh man, so the Levo SL obviously comes with a much smaller battery, a smaller motor. It's got the Specialized Levo SL motor, which is 2.4 pounds lighter than the regular Turbo Levo motor that you'd find in the other bikes that Specialized makes. So the battery in the Levo SL is 320 watt hours. Now that's pretty good if you're just gonna be doing some of your smaller local loops. Specialized estimates that you can get a 5-hour ride time out of that. If you are gonna be going out with guys on regular e-bikes or gonna be doing some more longer distance e-bike rides, Specialized does sell a range extender which fits into the water bottle cage, and it is a special external battery put in the cage. There's a little cable that'll run to the charge port, and that retails for $450. It will give you an extra 160 watt hours of battery life, so it's definitely something that will extend the range of the bike's capabilities and your ride. The way this bike climbs performance-wise, as you could imagine, fits right between a regular Turbo Levo or most powered e-bikes and a more traditional non-electric mountain bike. These bikes can get down into 38 pounds for the S-Works level and above models. The Carbon Expert, which we are testing here, is just under 40 pounds. Obviously, that's still a bit of a difference as to most non-electric bikes. So the climbing speed, feel, maneuverability of the bike are much more on par with a mountain bike than the traditional Levo. However, it gives you just enough boost to get up the steep stuff when you need it. In the lower power modes, the bike is underpowered compared to other e-bikes on the market. This bike is designed to be lighter and a sort of a gateway e-bike, something for people who didn't want the heavy, sluggish feeling of a traditional e-bike, but just wanted to get into a spot where they could get a little more range, maybe ride a couple extra days a week. And because of that, there were compromises that had to be made, and one of those compromises was in the amount of power and boost that this motor will give you. The SL 1.1 motor, again, it has 35 Newton meters of torque. Now, the regular Levo motor has 90 Newton meters of torque, so as you can see, it's a big difference. The Turbo Levo is 4 times your effort. It's roughly 411% assistance, whereas this bike basically doubles your effort into the bike. So whatever you put in at maximum output, it will double what you're giving. Something that we experimented with was we'd put a relatively out of shape rider on this bike and put 2 pretty fit riders on a traditional pedal bike. In the lowest power mode on the Levo, that rider was exerting about 90% of his max output just to keep up with fit riders on a pedal bike. If he put that bike into the middle power mode, he would be putting about 70% effort out, whereas the fit riders were closer to like 85, 90%. Once he put this bike into boost, the XC guys were having to work a little bit. They were putting about 90, 95% effort to keep up with this rider. So as great as the bike is on some of the technical, fun, tight and twisty trails, because of that snappy geo and the light weight, it's equally fun on the descent. The bike won't quite hang with riders on, full powered e-bikes. And likewise, when we get to some of the tight, twisty downhills, other bikes are having a hard time keeping up with the rider on the Levo SL. Anytime we come out of a corner, if there's rocks or a little obstacle, you want to unweight the bike as you would on a mountain bike and pump and compress on the backside of little rocks or whatever it might be. This bike will do that. Typically, everybody that was on this bike was leaving the other riders in the dust coming out of corners. And that wasn't because we were getting on the pedals. That was because this bike was just easy to pump, accelerate, and maneuver in tighter, twistier terrain. Once we opened the bike up, get it on some of the faster, more high-speed trails, the bike was still a lot of fun. It was confident. The head tube angle was quick and nimble, didn't make it feel like a dog in some of the tighter stuff, and it didn't really have us feeling too skittish until we got into some of the real steeper and rougher types of terrain. And again, a fair amount of that probably has to do with the 34mm fork spec as well. But whether or not that's going to be an issue for you is kind of really your decision and based on your riding level and terrain. Some of the things that we really liked about the bike are that it is so light. It is snappy, it's playful, it doesn't ride as much like an e-bike. The flip side is it doesn't ride as much like an e-bike going up the hill either. Some of the other critiques we have about the bike are the price is a bit high. The 170mm cranks, that's something that we're still up in the air with at this time. Might be a problem if we went to 165. We might not get the amount of torque and power we needed with this smaller motor, but the ground clearance increase would also be welcome. The 34mm fork would probably be one of our last critiques. It keeps the bike weight down overall, yes. However, if you're on the more aggressive, demanding side of the riding spectrum, having something with a little bit more front-end stiffness would definitely be nice. But beyond that, really solid bike. The suspension tune is on point. We think the shock does a good job. And the fork, again, outside of the most extreme and gnarly terrain, the tune, the damping, the performance is all very good. Bike handles well, it's lively, poppy, stable and predictable. Very solid, fun bike all around. We're very excited to put more time, get more trails, and continue to keep shredding this thing. So stay tuned for a full in-depth review in the future months. And until then, we're gonna keep shredding and we'll hope to see you on the trails. Thanks.